Cars are one of the best interests to have, whether you're into racing them or modifying them. They can improve your life massively. They give you something to get excited about and to bond with people over. But there's a lot of basic knowledge that's needed when talking about them. That's why it can feel overwhelming when you talk to someone who's actually knowledgeable. And of course, you don't want them to know you're an idiot. So you just nod your head and pretend you know what an 8-liter quad-turbo W16 with DCT means while you get so annoyed. Well, lucky for you, I'm going to teach you what those terms mean so you can follow along in the conversation like a normal person instead of just standing there. And really, there's not much to it. So this video will cover everything you need to know to have a real car conversation. Once you understand things like the engine types, transmissions, and drivetrains, you can start to form your opinions about cars, and which makes you interesting to talk to. And even if you already know the basics about cars, I'll be throwing in some facts that even car nerds don't know, so you can really trick people into thinking you're an expert. We should first start by talking about the basic layout. All cars have an engine, a transmission, and a drivetrain, which is everything you need to make the car go. Unless, of course, you're in one of these. But in general, these components are blended together in a multitude of ways to create anything from a Honda Civic to an F-150 to a Bugatti. Now, let's take a look at the engine. The first thing you need to know is how it works isn't actually that important, because you should think about what it does for you and not what's going on inside while you're using it. All you need to know is that there are cylinders with a piston that pumps up and down. Air and fuel go in, combustion occurs, and that creates a force. So now we got that out of the way, it's time to identify the engine. First, the basic notation. When you see something like this, you should be able to tell what kind of engine it has, and it's actually pretty easy. The first thing to look at is actually the last number here, which tells you how many cylinders the engine has. This is the most important information since it tells you a lot about the character of the car. For example, something small, cheap, and light like a Honda Civic will almost always have 4 cylinders, while something faster and sportier like a Corvette will have 8, or something like the Bugatti can have up to 16 cylinders. Now that we know how many cylinders the engine has, we can look at the letter next to it, which tells us the layout of those cylinders. In this example, the V tells you that the engine actually looks like a V shape. The cylinders are divided into 2 separate banks, which face each other at roughly a 90-degree angle. Probably the most common engine layout is the I shape, which also means inline or straight. Basically, every single 4-cylinder is an inline or straight 4, and BMW chooses to use inline 6s over the more common V6. The next important engine layout to see is denoted by an H or an F. Subaru and Porsche use this engine layout for most of their cars because it allows you to keep the weight lower to get better handling. In this engine layout, 2 banks of cylinders sit flat, opposing each other on the same plane. In that way, the letter H actually represents how the engine looks, which cannot be said for the W engine layout. This is commonly used by, like, Bentley or Bugatti to fit a lot of cylinders in a small engine block. And this is how it looks. So, not exactly like the letter W. Now, similar to the W layout, there's something called a VR layout, which you'll find in some Volkswagens. This allows you to get a 6-cylinder in the space of about an inline 4, inline 5. Now that you've figured out the layout of the engine, you can look at the first number here, which is the displacement. In this case, 3.0 liter means 3 liters. This just tells you what the total volume is in all of the cylinders combined. So if you have a 3-liter V6, that means 3 liters is divided by 6 cylinders. So each cylinder is 0.5 liters, or 500 milliliters. To put that in context, a Honda Civic has a 4-cylinder with 1.5 liters, while the Bugatti has a 16-cylinder with 8 liters. And that is basically all you need to know to talk about engines, except for one thing, which is the induction type. Now, most engines are what's called naturally aspirated, and this means the movement of the pistons in the cylinders draws fresh air in, which means you have oxygen for the combustion to occur. However, there is a better way to do things, and that's by either using a turbocharger or a supercharger to cram more air into the engine. More air means you can have more fuel, which means you can have a bigger explosion and make more horsepower. The difference between a turbocharger and a supercharger is that a turbocharger uses the exhaust gases coming from the engine to spin a turbine, which compresses air and sends it into the cylinders. On the other hand, a supercharger uses the actual turning of the engine to cram more air in. It's getting to the point nowadays where most economy cars have a supercharger or a turbocharger because it means you can use a smaller engine and get better gas mileage, but still have the same amount of power as a large engine. And now you're totally certified to talk about engines with actual car people. However, engines are connected to something, and that's the transmission, which is the next thing we need to talk about. There are 2 basic types of transmissions. One is an automatic gearbox, and one is a manual. Automatic basically just means that the car can actually shift gears for you. Now, in most modern automatics, you can find paddles behind the wheel to control when the car shifts, but it's still the car doing the shifting for you. Now, compare that to a manual gearbox, where you have to go around playing with a stick all day. This is highly preferred by car enthusiasts. It's a more satisfying and engaging driving experience than driving an automatic. So if anyone says they're a car enthusiast but they drive an automatic, you should probably ridicule them and make fun of them because only real car guys drive manuals. Okay, I'm joking. A manual gearbox takes practice to learn how to drive, and you also have to deal with 3 pedals instead of just 2, but that's why it's more fun. It's more engaging since there's more to do, and you're constantly kept busy and focused on the experience of driving. Now, that's basically all you need to know about transmissions. So we have power being generated in the engine, being sent through the gearbox, but now it needs to go through the wheels. And there's actually 3 different ways of doing this. One way of doing this is all-wheel drive, where you send power to all of the wheels. This is common in Subarus and it's best for low-grip environments like snow or mud. However, it's very inefficient because there's a lot of power loss due to all the components. It's also pretty expensive and heavy. A cheaper and lighter alternative to all-wheel drive is rear-wheel drive. This is where you only send power to the rear wheels. This is very popular for performance cars as it offers the best blend of grip and lightness. That's because whenever you accelerate in a car, weight shifts to the back and therefore there's more force on the rear wheels, which gives you better traction. Now compare this to the last drive type, which is front-wheel drive. Front-wheel drive is the cheapest and lightest way to build a car, but it's not as good for traction. That's because when you accelerate, weight lifts off of the front wheels as it goes to the back, and then you get less traction in the front, where your power is getting sent to. Now, this doesn't really matter for the majority of economy cars, but pretty much any Civic or normal commuter car is front-wheel drive. It's the cheapest drive type to build. It also gets the best fuel economy because there's less distance for the power to travel. Now, while you can send power anywhere, you can also place the engine anywhere. You can put the engine in the front of the car, in the middle, or even in the rear. By far, the most common place to put the engine is in the front. But if you get an exotic car like a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, or a McLaren, usually the engine will be in the middle. Some cars like the Toyota MR2 also came with the engine in the middle. Since the engine is usually the heaviest component in a car and it's in the middle, it means the car can rotate easily so it handles better. Now, rear engine is really only used by Porsche, and it's good because you get a lot of weight on the rear wheels, which gives you better traction. Now, all this is great and all, but there's one thing you really need to understand, and that is a limited slip differential, or a LSD. In 95% of cars, you have what's called an open differential. This means the power takes the path of least resistance. So if you spin one tire, that tire is going to instantly start spinning really fast, and the other won't have any power going to it. But if you have a limited slip differential, then whenever you start spinning one wheel, the other side will start spinning at the same speed. This means you can drift, and you get better traction because both tires are spinning, trying to grab the pavement. So that's really the most important thing that any sports car needs, besides a manual gearbox. And that's pretty much it. You now know enough to hold your own in a car conversation without just nodding and smiling. Whether you're talking about engines, drivetrains, or hypercars, you can actually throw in some knowledge that'll impress even the biggest car nerds. So get out there, talk cars, and maybe go drive one. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe.